Hello, this is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. So there's a lot going on. There's been a lot going on in the past week that I want to catch up with you on. So the past week, we've seen two more states with the same anti-immigration laws, similar to Texas's and Georgia. So right now, we have the states that have that have started to implement more restrictive anti-immigration laws, and those would be, it started with Florida, then Texas. Now we see Georgia. There's now Tennessee that they're pushing through legislation, anti-immigration legislation, to focus on immigrants who don't have their status in the state. And Iowa is the other one where they have targeted certain undocumented immigrants for arrest. So I'm going to just touch on this just to let you know what's going on. So both the laws in Iowa and Tennessee are set to go into effect on July 1st. And in Tennessee, what they're saying is they created a law that's going to ban, so it's going to outlaw sanctuary cities. Now, sanctuary cities are cities where they don't emphasize or they don't necessarily enforce um, the immigration law. The state isn't supposed to enforce the immigration law to begin with, but the sanctuary cities allow immigrants to live there in a sort of safe zone where law enforcement they cannot ask about their immigration status, or they don't ask about their immigration status, and they can get certain benefits in that particular city and maybe even statewide. But you find sanctuary cities within states. So Tennessee has now targeted those cities, those towns that tend to provide a sort of safe harbor for certain immigrants. They're targeting them and saying that they are going to now make these sanctuary cities illegal. And if there is a sanctuary city, if they enforce any kind of sanctuary policies, they're not going to give them state funding. And, it is a part of the state and they need state funding to function. So that could be detrimental to that particular area in the state. So that's one part of the Tennessee law that's going through. And then the other part of that law is that law enforcement agents and officials are supposed to, they can create agreements with sort of cooperation agreements with the federal government, like ICE, for example. So they would get into agreements with ICE agencies around Tennessee and help them to check immigration statuses and possibly detain any immigrants that they're instructed to detain, as well as detain immigrants and ask the federal agency what they should do in that case. So that is, remember that the point, the, the state is not supposed to enforce immigration law. But what we're finding is that there's a pattern, a trend happening right now where states are now taking this into their own hands. So this is becoming a pattern across certain states. So now we see Georgia, Tennessee, Iowa are now following suit. This means that if you are undocumented, right? So if you're undocumented in Tennessee, that if you are stopped by law enforcement, they now have the authority to check your immigration status and then hold you in order to check with a federal agency, for example, ICE, to see what should be done with you. If ICE says bring you over, for them to detain you, then they can do that. So that is the purpose of that law. There now we're seeing laws popping up where they are, and even with Florida. So compared the law in Florida compared to the law in Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, and Iowa, there, I mean, it's a lot harsher because it is taking it a step further. So with the Florida law, it didn't necessarily authorize law enforcement to do any kind of detainment just because an immigrant was undocumented. It mostly focused on immigrants, the employment of undocumented immigrants in the state. And if undocumented immigrants used fake papers to work, then they could charge them with a felony. That was the only criminal consequence for undocumented immigrants in Florida. However, in the other states, they have taken it a step further, and they are actually making, so Texas, they have this law. I believe the court has put a hold on it. The last I checked, put a hold on that law in Texas, but it was actually authorizing law enforcement to deport undocumented immigrants in the state. Now in Georgia and Tennessee, they're authorizing law enforcement to take the steps necessary, if it's necessary to detain, to take those steps to detain, and then work with federal agencies like ICE to then deport. So if ICE agrees that they want this person, they want to detain them, then they will have a cooperation agreement in place. Now the local law enforcement agencies are authorized to then work with the government, the federal government, state government, with the federal government to exchange the immigrant from their custody into the federal agencies' custody, like ICE, because ICE is the main agency that does detain certain undocumented immigrants. Now, ICE still has its own priorities, so it might be they even though the state government is saying that they are now going to work with ICE to exchange immigrant from the state custody into the federal agency's custody. We have, that's something that we have to see how that's going to work, because ICE has its own priorities for deportation. And right now they're focusing on undocumented immigrants who are here, that they recently crossed the border illegally, crossed the border without permission, or they are posing a threat to national security or public safety. For example, they have a violent criminal history that can pose further harm to the community. Then in that case, they are at the top of the priority list for immigration. Also, if they are pose a risk to national security, as in, say, they're a risk to national security, as in, they're on the terror list, then they would be at the top of the priority list for ICE to detain and deport. Otherwise, anybody else, they're not a priority for deportation. However, the states are now putting a lot more pressure by then implementing their own immigration laws so that they can take action themselves to detain, to harass, detain undocumented immigrants in the state. And this is for all immigrants in Tennessee who do not have their current status. Now, what you're going to find is, even if you're in Tennessee and you don't have your papers, maybe you're receiving benefits, then some kind of public benefits from a sanctuary city or a public agency, and of course you're qualified, they determine you qualify, maybe because of sanctuary policies, that's going to be no more coming July 1st. So the implications are gray here. Now, with Iowa, it's a little more restrictive. So with Iowa, their priority is to arrest and detain undocumented immigrants who do have previous deportation. They have a previous deportation on their record, or they had a past arrest, but it does not. It's not, the law doesn't target them on a all undocumented immigrants to arrest them, but it does authorize law enforcement to check if they were deported, or they have a deportation order, or they were deported and then came back into the country. Now, I know the next question is, well, say you're right now, you have your work permit. You don't have official status yet. Maybe you're in the middle of your process, but you have your work permit. You have certain types of benefits in place that have been granted by immigration, like deferred action or a special type of status. You're applying for asylum. At this time, you are not counted in that category, right? If you have your work permit and you have um, even if you don't have status but you have your work permit, it means that you have authorization to be here, to stay here while your process is going forward. So you just have to make sure you have your work permit on you, and you have your proof of deferred action on you to prove that right now you're going through your process and you have your paperwork pending. So if you can show that, for example, the work permit, you would not be included. You'd not be at risk um, for, for detainment, because technically, yes, you may not have status, but you're not out of status, or you're not unlawfully present in the United States. So that's very important to know here, because I know a lot of people are like, you're waiting on your process. You may have you have the work permit and you're wondering if you're included. You're not included at this time. The other question is, well, I just filed my paperwork. Don't have my work permit, but I'm working towards a work permit. Will that protect you? Well, it's that will not give you official protection. However, what I like to say here is it's better to have something in than nothing at all. Because, for example, even though you may be at risk for detainment, by showing that you have something pending, you are currently applying for your status here, it means that you're likely to be released pending your process, right? So they're not very likely to prioritize you for any kind of deportation or immigration court hearing, because in that case, you already have a process that you're trying to pursue. So even though it doesn't give you official protection, it can still work to your benefit. And then if you don't get on something now, then when will you get to it? You can't, you don't want to wait until it's too late, right? So you want to have something going, and that's where I am focusing on. So right now, I and the firm are working feverishly to help individuals get their papers, get in status, so that you don't have to have this stress. It's stressful, I know, and I'm trying to help as many people as possible. So there's attorney Bria and I that are now working together to find solutions where you are able to get status, get protection while being here in the US. So you can go to the link in the profile, call the office, let them know that you want to get started on figuring out what your solution is here. Because there are solutions, and I do have clients right now who were in that situation where they didn't have their papers. They have their papers. They're in these very states like Tennessee, Georgia. They're in these very states that are implementing these laws, and they have the protection they need to move forward and not have to worry about what's going to happen to them. Are they going to be separated from their families? So there are solutions here. You just have to seek those out. So I just wanted to talk to you about what's going on, and what I am going to say here is that it's a trend right now, and you are going to have to expect this to pop up in other states across the United States. This trend is here, and it's here to stay for the duration of this. Political turmoil that we're going through right now, and immigration is at the top of it's a very divisive topic, and so it's at the top of that contentious subject matter. So you want to make sure that you figure out a solution here, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to do that. Now, let me go ahead and answer some questions. Hi there, Alton. Nice to see you. I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions that you may have. You can ask anything that's immigration related. If you want to get in touch with the office, go to the link in the profile, or you can scroll to the top of TikTok. You'll see my number there. The number is scrolling right across YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So call that number. And then on Instagram, go to the link in the profile page and you'll see the number there. Give us a call and we can get started. All right. So I'm going to go scroll through. Let's start with TikTok because I see a flurry of questions coming in. So I want to make sure. How easy is EB1? So I don't know if I would say how easy is EB1. It depends on your qualifications. EB1 is the Extraordinary Ability Green Card. And if you meet certain criteria to show that you are at the top of your field in whatever career you're in, you're at the top of your field. And you have to show that by showing certain documentary evidence that you're at the top of your field, you could qualify for the EB1, so the Extraordinary Ability Green Card, and apply for it on your own. So the question is, can you show that? Can you show that you are at the top? You are in the top echelon of your career. You're a top entrepreneur. You're a top engineer. You're a top doctor. You're a top researcher. If you can show that you have reached that through articles, through your level of experience, through showing that you earn higher salary than normal, by showing that there are articles on you, about you, featuring you. Those are just some of the types of evidence that can get you the Extraordinary Ability Green Card. I believe you do have to show 3 out of 10 total criteria that they give you. So, it just depends on whether you can meet that. How long I-130 take to be approved? So 9 months to 12 months right now. Hi there, good afternoon. Do the traffickers get blacklisted in the T visa? So with the T visa, keep in mind that being categorized as a trafficker means that if this person is not if the trafficker is not a US citizen, they can be found inadmissible as a trafficker. So blacklisted, not necessarily in other areas, but under immigration, if the immigration service identifies the trafficker in the T visa application and the trafficker doesn't have papers themselves, then normally, ordinarily, naturally, they're going to be flagged as a trafficker and then put as inadmissible. So if they ever apply for anything, then they could find themselves, inadmissible. We don't use the term blacklisted in immigration, but I guess it would be the same thing. But in other areas, it just depends. In other areas like employment, not necessarily, because this is a confidential process. But in immigration, if that trafficker doesn't have their papers themselves, or they're applying for an immigration benefit, yes, they could be found inadmissible for being a trafficker. Is it advised that someone parole in the country, asylum, kids can apply for visitors visa? So when it comes to asylum, so parole, when you say parole, is it as in you come to the airport or you come to the border and you ask to be paroled while you apply for asylum? That's going to be up to immigration based on their screening protocol. But what I would say here is when you are fleeing, and you are claiming asylum, then you have to do what it takes to get to safety. So if with asylum, when you are leaving your country, it tends to be not a situation where you meticulously plan this out. It's usually a situation where you just have to go. And when you get to for example, you get to the border or get to the airport, it's that time that then the border patrol can make a decision about whether they're going to parole you into the country on your fear of persecution in your country. I have a married ring to prove I'm married because me and my husband don't. I have to have a married ring to prove I'm married because me and my husband don't really have it. Not necessarily. Having I would say it's definitely a good sign of marriage, but it's not the only thing. I would say it's a cherry on top of the cake, but not necessarily a deciding factor for the officer. The deciding factor is going to be how are you building your life with your spouse? How are you planning your life out? How are you living your life with your spouse? Even though you don't have a ring. Until I get my feet Okay, so until I get on my feet to work and help him, but we get married at the courthouse. Okay, and I totally understand. Yes, just live your lives as you're a bona fide married couple. Live your lives that way. Make sure you document everything that you're doing as a married couple as you plan your lives out. If you have joint bills together, that's going to be important. If you have a joint lease together, that's going to be important. If you've bought a car together, that's going to be important. If you have an active joint bank account together, that's going to be important. If you have life insurance together, that's going to be important. Health insurance together, that's going to be important. The wedding ring is it's cute, but it's a cherry on top. You are in removal proceedings. Can you get married? So if you do get married and you want to then adjust status while you're in removal proceedings, you have to show by clear and convincing evidence. That's a much higher standard to prove that your marriage is bona fide. So it's possible, but you have to be ready to meet that high standard of proof. After doing biometrics, what's next? So it depends. It could be an interview. It depends on what you're applying for. Biometrics, usually, if you're applying for adjustment of status, the work permit, or a decision comes. How long it's going to take for that decision to come depends on the kind of case you're applying for. When will I be allowed to travel outside of the USA through marriage? So get a travel document. If you get a travel document, then you're able to travel outside of the US with that travel document temporarily while your marriage green card is going through. Why is the I-751 taking so long? I submit my package in 11/15/2021. Yes, they're taking an average of about two, so I'd say 2 to 4 years. And it's been backed up. It's been really bad since a little before COVID. and it has not improved. But yes, I understand your frustration because I'm also going through it with my clients. What happens if I made a mistake on my I-130 application by not listing my adult kids on it? Correct that ASAP, because that can be, depending on what the circumstances are, that can be misconstrued as fraud. So you want to make sure you correct that. Make sure before they make any decisions, before they even review the I-130, get that information in so that you can add your adult children. I did my asylum fingerprints, waiting for my work permit. Am I protected by immigration? So having a pending asylum process go through, it means that while it doesn't officially protect you just by applying for asylum, you should apply for your work permit. You get to apply for your work permit 150 days after you've applied for asylum. At that point, you can have proof of your identification, but applying for asylum alone doesn't give you official protection. But it sure is better than having nothing at all, because if you're currently going through an asylum process, it means you can justify your presence here. But having nothing at all means you don't have anything to fall back on to say why you're here. I'm a resident. I know someone from Guyana, 2 years already. How long more he has to wait? Um, so I'm not sure what that question is asking. I submitted my application 2 weeks ago and I haven't heard anything since. You might get something soon. It depends on what you're applying for, and it depends on how busy they are. Good afternoon. After biometrics, what next can I expect? It depends on the application. When do you do a background check for VAWA? What's next? After you submit your VAWA petition, get receipt notice about, I'd say, 6 weeks to 2 months afterwards, you get the biometrics notice. When can I get divorced? After getting my green card through marriage. So that it comes, I think you need legal advice about what is advisable here. And it depends on your facts. My husband, who is a citizen, did an I-130 for me, and the progress says 4 weeks for a decision. So yeah, so that is there in the app to tell the estimated time. Sometimes it tells you that, and then it keeps going on and on and on. So you just have to wait. I'm currently living in the U.S. with him. Should I apply for I-485? Now, U.S. citizen husband applied for I-130. You should get legal advice, because usually when you're married to a U.S. citizen here, you can apply for adjustment of status at the same time that you're applying for the petition. So yes, it may be possible, but I don't know what the circumstances here. What are your, hi there, Vicente, it's nice to see you. What are your facts involved? CR1, wait time for interview in Juarez. So right now I'm seeing anywhere from a year and a half to 2 years to wait for embassy interviews. Okay, I didn't know my kids weren't listed on application until I went to my interview. Okay. So if that's the case, it sounds like they may have already accused you of some kind of fraud. This is where you get legal advice. They may have implied that there's some form of fraud going on. So this is where you get legal advice. What about if the person came on a visitor's visa and someone promised them a work permit? So in this case, I've gotten the T visa approved where the person told them that lie, that they were getting them their work permit, induced them to stay and work, and then that was a lie. Then it's possible that there's labor trafficking by fraud because of the lie. So this is where you get in touch. Call, schedule an appointment, let's talk. I want to adjust my status to be to EB2. Can I do this on my own? I have a BSc on the field. It's possible, but we need to know more facts. And I think I should do a live on the I should really do a live on the EB2, which is a national interest waiver. That is a way that some people can apply for their own green card here. If they're, of course, they have to wait until the priority date is current to be able to get the green card. But the national interest waiver, which is the EB2 here, is really dependent on your qualifications. Now, the BSc, so Bachelor in Science, is not enough by itself to get you the national interest waiver. You do have to show an advanced degree, which means a master's, at least a master's, or a PhD. If you have your bachelor's, you have to show that you have gained at least 5 years experience in your field along with that bachelor's. And then if you say you have say you don't have the 5 years experience, if you show extraordinary ability, exceptional ability, and they have certain ways that you can show exceptional ability. So you can show it through your level of experience, through your professional affiliation. So if you have membership to a particular association, if you've earned more based on your field, if you have, won awards in your field or accolades, that can count. So you would have to then build that evidence to show that you have that exceptional ability in your field. Then, after you have shown that you qualify because of your level, your degree, or because of your exceptional ability, you still have to meet three other criteria. So you have, and I think this is where you have to be very solid on your goal here. What is your goal? How are you going to contribute to the United States? That is going to be crucial to get the EB2. So, you have to show that you have a goal of national importance and substantial merit. Doesn't mean you have to be famous, doesn't mean you have to invent anything, but it does mean that you really do have to show that whatever field you're entering or whatever business you're doing, that it is going to have some importance in the development of the United States. Then you have to show the level of experience you have, once again, to show that you have the means to achieve it. And then you're going to have to also show why is it beneficial to the US to waive the requirement that you go through an employer and give you the green card. So, that in a nutshell is the national interest waiver. I am under DACA. My church is having a missionary trip to Ethiopia. Could this be advanced parole? It may be possible. It because you do have DACA recipients that go on study abroad programs. So yes, it may be possible, but you do have to present some solid information for them to make a decision. I need to do adjustment of status. Can I still travel within the US? So adjustment of status, traveling within the US usually has not been a problem unless you're at an advanced risk for some reason. Got SSN, but no EAD, AOS through marriage. Is that normal? No update. So just last week, one of my clients did get the SSN before the EAD. So that does happen. But, look out for the EAD. If you don't get it, contact immigration, let them know. What does it mean if my priority date is February 15th, 2024 on my I-485? So it means that when you're looking at a priority date, when your priority date is current, on the chart to apply for adjustment of status, it's going to be on or before February 15, 2024. So it's very complicated, but there's a certain chart that shows current priority dates, and February 15th has to be on or before that date that is on the chart. Can I do a consultation with you today? So our schedule is filling up, and unfortunately, probably not today. However, call the office and get scheduled, because if you wait, you're going to have to possibly wait for a couple of weeks. So get on it right now, because my schedule and Attorney Bria's schedule is filling up. Attorney Bria works with me very closely to evaluate cases to see if you qualify for protection here in the US for your papers, for your work permit. But be proactive here. And that's what I'm depending on you to do. And, you should be depending on you to be proactive to get the help you need, because it's going to be crucial here. I'm currently married to a US citizen and we're at different addresses, though. Will that be a problem for me? Yes, it could very well be a problem. You need to be very clear on why you're living at two different addresses. What does it mean if my priority date is okay? So I answered that. How long after you do your fingerprints do you get your work permit? It depends on the application type. My husband is a green card holder. So if your spouse is a green card holder and you're here, your priority date is current, your current visa status is current, then it means that you can qualify to apply for the green card. However, if you're out of status, it's not going to work. I have a green card for 42 years. Do I have to take the citizenship test? So there are tests where you can take easier. You can take easier tests than than what is normally the case. If you're a certain age, so you've been here for 42 years, but the next question is, how old are you? The tests get a little easier. Your options get a little easier when you are, I believe, 50. So it starts at 50 and up. So you have 50, and they have 50 years with certain amount of years in the US, then you can get an easier test, then 55, then 65. My husband is a green card holder. He filed for me April 2021, DQ 2023. How long is waiting? Oh my gosh. So right now I'm seeing about a year to even 2 years to get that interview date. All right. Thanks so much for your patience. I'm still going through and answering questions, so please drop those questions in the comments now. Can I apply for cancellation of removal? If I have been living in the United States for 11 years and have 3 US citizen children, I changed my religion from Hindu to Islam, and we all practice in Islam, it's possible. Now, cancellation of removal is where you're going through court, though. You have to get it through court, meaning you have to go through the stressful process of going through deportation. So it's not usually something you can opt to apply for with the USCIS without the stress of going to court. Hi there. If I apply for the T visa, my employer get problem because he is my hubby. So, what the I would say the implications of applying for a T visa are different from client to client. And it sometimes even depends on what my client's goals are in regards to the trafficker. So this is where it's so important to schedule an appointment. Let's talk about your situation first and then understand your situation, and I can advise better on what the potential issues could be. For example, this is a very confidential process. And so one of my clients lived in the same house as the person who was trafficking her. And she got approved because that was her escape plan. Once she got her papers, she could escape the situation. And so once she got her papers, We exchanged papers, everything. She got her papers, got approved, got her work permit, and this person that she was staying with the whole time did not know that this was happening because it's extremely confidential. But it just depends on the facts here, what's going on, what are your goals, what do you want out of this situation. If I have travel document through VAWA, so when I come back from my country, what questions can be asked by the officer? So usually, my client's experiences differ. I've even had a situation where my client's phone was taken away, which was very scary for them. It was returned, but if they want to, they can do that. They can do that with anybody. They can check your phones, if they want to. So, but that has been rare. That is a rare occasion. In most situations, they're still going to tell you to come to secondary inspection. So, secondary inspection is where they have you sit, they take your identity, they take your passport, take your work permit, and they verify that everything is good to go. And I would say you would expect to maybe stay in there for 15 minutes to 40 minutes in secondary inspection while they're reviewing everything. I've never had a situation, even in the case with the phone, I've never had a situation where they extensively questioned my clients about their case. So they're not going to ask any questions about what their case is about. Just in case, while I'm not your attorney, I can't give legal advice. It's only prudent that you also make sure that make sure you take your prima facie statement if you have one. Make sure you take your original receipt notices for the VAWA and the adjustment of status, so that they can see that these are real pending applications as well. But your work permit is usually enough. They don't usually ask for all of that. The work permit with the travel document, don't forget the travel document needs to be there. Could you tell me how means what it means to be removed under section 212 and 237? So those are referring to basis of inadmissibility. So it depends on the section number and what the facts are involved in your case. Good day, ma'am. Can someone who has overstayed their time in the US but still pay their taxes here in the US have any options to gain citizenship? Absolutely, yes. And most of those individuals are my clients, and my clients have been in that situation and they've gotten a path. Now, if you're asking if just by overstaying but paying your taxes at the same time will get you your residency, no. Overstaying and paying taxes alone is not going to. But with my clients, I focus on solutions for my clients who don't have their papers. And they do stay here, pay their taxes, work. At the same time, they end up having circumstances that qualify them for relief. If VAWA was denied, but because of a misdemeanor charge, how long will it take for ICE to pick you up? So it depends on the facts here. And if the VAWA was denied, there are ways to get forgiveness. I don't know what the misdemeanor charge was, but this is where it's very important to get legal advice, because there are ways to ask for forgiveness based on what happened. And then with ICE, it just depends on the seriousness of the charge and whether you're at the top of their priority list. This is where it's important to evaluate your options. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, child of God, Mackie. I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to answer some questions here on Instagram. So please put your questions in the comments. Hi there. Good morning, Paulette. Where am I located? So I am in Boca Raton, Florida. We also have an office in Delray Beach. And even though we're based in Florida, we represent clients all over the country, all over the world. So no matter where you are, I can help. That's the beauty of the firm, is that we are aiming to help people wherever you are. If you're in Tennessee right now, if you're in Texas, if you're in Iowa, we can help you. Uh, you're from LA. Hi there in LA, and greetings, and I hope you give us a call. We can help you. I want to ask, how much is the fees for work EAD after completing 150 days clock? $0. So it doesn't cost a fee. I-601 waiver waiting time, any improvement? So I haven't seen any right now, unfortunately. The news is definitely not good. Yeah, I agree. It's a bad trend. We're going in a direction that is very alarming. And now we're approaching an election. And this election, I would say, the stakes are really high here. And if you have US citizen relatives, make sure that you're talking to them about participating in the election process. We did it the last time in 2020, 2020. We did it, right, with the election. It can be done again, where, and the thing about this is the solution here, and it may seem really hard, but we did it in the last election. For those who are citizens, if you're not a citizen, even if you're a permanent resident, you can't vote. Only US citizens can vote and register to vote. You have relatives, you have friends, you have coworkers, you have employees who are immigrants here, who are on the line here. Please make sure you go ahead and participate. It makes a difference. And even with this situation, these past years, it has been tumultuous. But what I have seen is that even though the federal government has a long way to go, they have improved a lot. I mean, and we need another 4 years to improve this. And if the conditions are right, as in we get a majority of the right people in Congress, we get the right president in the White House. It means instead of having these kinds of laws popping up, I mean, we could still have them because the states, especially the conservative states, are the ones that are making these laws. But you will have a federal law in place that helps with positive immigration reform, because you would have a majority of Congress people and the president that can support this. When President Biden went into office, he very much supported positive immigration reform. But what has been happening is it's so divisive that it is now something that is hard to achieve for President Biden. He is encouraging Congress, and Congress is very much divided because we have right now it's neck on neck. And neck on neck in Congress in regards to the immigration issue. And we need to have a majority of the right people in place in Congress to make this right and to implement positive, fair, just immigration reform. And we're not saying here that we should have free borders. I mean, every country needs to have the right to secure borders. However, we are a country of immigrants, and we need to have, and immigrants are here, including undocumented immigrants are here contributing, working, building up this country, and we need to find a solution for them. So that's it. So participate in the election process at a minimum. That's one of the solutions here. Can one adjust status to an eligible to an immigrant status within the US if the person is on TPS only. No, so you can't adjust status just by being on TPS only. Why is there such a huge backlog in immigration system? Is it normal? So, in regards to my experience with immigration, I've had personal experiences with immigration, and I've also had the professional experience. And, throughout the years, it's been up and down. So, I know after 9/11, it was really bad. Not as bad as now, though. I feel like now is worse than ever. We're seeing backlogs of years, should have been months. When I, was a young attorney starting to practice, the marriage-based process was 6 months. And that was 6 months if the spouse was outside of the country. 6 months, you know. Now it's 2 to 3 years, even if the spouse is a citizen. So it's, the policies, the backwards policies, I would say it really is a broken immigration process. It's a system. We need fixes here. The But it's going to get a lot worse in the future if the wrong person goes into the White House and takes over immigration policies. It's going to get a lot worse because a part of the backlog also came from the Trump years as well. So, we want to, I'm telling you, everything we have to work is slowly but surely we have to work towards positive change to get this reversed. And we're going to definitely see it get worse if we see a different president take over. Uh, Me spouse, so my spouse wants to marry me, but she can't work because of health issues. Can she still help? Absolutely, yes. No, if she can't work, what you'd have to get is a joint sponsor to show they make sufficient income to support you if she can. I haven't received my EAD renewal receipt after 3 months of applying. You need to get in touch with them. That is very long. Right now, we get it in maybe within 2 weeks. My I-130 and I-45 just changed to actively being reviewed 2 days ago. Is that a good sign? Don't hold your breath. You probably won't make it. It doesn't mean that you're going to see that decision right away. It may, but in many cases, I've seen it sit like that for months. So don't hold your breath. Be positive, but don't hold that breath. How long does it take after filing for my stepkids abroad as a U.S. citizen? So I would say anywhere from a year and a half to 2 years for that process. C-14 work permit can be applied for Greencard. So I'll have to check what the C-14 work category is. That's a category of the work permit. In some cases, for example, if it's based on an approved VAWA, it means Greencard is next. But I'm not, I would have to look at the list of categories to see what the C-14 is. Any advice on 245I? So you do have to qualify. And yeah, you definitely get legal advice. How long does it take to receive a notice after sending in documents? Within 2 weeks, you should get one. Want a notice. We applied for over 21 son of a US citizen and no update since 2017. So it's a long wait time, 5 to 7 years. So, which you're approaching that now, so you should be receiving something soon. All right. I have completed my 150 days of clock after filing an asylum. So is it okay if I apply for work permit? So I don't know your case, I'm not your attorney, but usually then after 150 days, you go ahead, apply ASAP. What we have been doing for our clients who are applying for asylum is we set an alarm, we set a trigger that tells us time to apply for our clients, and right on the 150-day mark, we apply. And then because of that, 30 days afterwards, we are getting those approved work permits. And those are 5-year work permits, by the way. Congratulations on your T visa win. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to much more. When you apply for a T visa, how long after can you apply for a work visa? Good news. Guess what happens? You get your work permit as soon as you get approved for the T visa. Now, you don't get the work permit while you're applying. You have to wait for them to approve you. But once you get approved, then you are good to go. You'll get your 4-year work permit, and then you can start applying for your green card. After applying for adjustment of status, what's the next step? So wait for your biometrics, wait for your work permit if you applied for it, then wait for a decision. Maybe you'll get the green card in the mail. Hey, so this is also something I wanted to note here. So Friday, I received 2 RFEs. And if you've been through the process, you know that when you see an RFE, you cringe, right? Because you think, oh my gosh, what is this? Well, in this case, I was very happy to see 2 RFEs. And do you know why? Because these RFEs are only asking for my clients' medicals. And because of my practice and, picking up on patterns, I now know that once they only ask for the medical, they are going to go ahead and send that green card next. Once we provide the medical, then they send the green card, because that's all they're asking for. As long as they approve the medical, they send the green card. So that's another hint here that they may waive your green card interview and just send the green card in the mail. So I was very happy to see that. And now you may ask here, so for those of you wondering, well, why didn't I send the medical to start with? And that's because these clients started on VAWA, and the medicals, even though they don't expire anymore, medicals used to expire, but they don't expire now. But those medicals expired because they've been going through the process for a while. And so when they ask again for the medical, then guess what? We can just send the medical and they give a decision. So we're happy about that. We're happy when we see those. Not all RFEs are great, but we're happy here because it's a good sign. What is the climate for sponsorship after graduating with an MBA? Depends on, the employer. It's hard to say here. Good day. How long is it taking now to process an I-212 application? So I would say these are about a year to a year and a half for those. The waivers right now are taking about a year to a year and a half. Is it true that you can't apply for work permit as a VAWA applicant if your spouse is not a citizen? Right now, and here's where you need to understand this, because I don't want you to discourage you from applying for VAWA, because some people say, well, I can't apply for the work permit now. What's the use? The thing about it is this changed in September. Before, this is why I say, guys, jump on the applications. When you know you qualify, don't wait, because so spouses of permanent residents, for a couple of years, I think from 2021 to now, the priority date was current, meaning no wait list. So when you are applying for VAWA as the spouse of a permanent resident, you could apply for everything at the same time because priority date was always current. But unlike being the spouse of a citizen, there is never a priority date for spouses of citizens. But unlike that, the spouse of permanent residents, if more spouses of permanent residents apply than for the green card, whether it's VAWA, whether they're being petitioned by the spouse, if more people apply for this, more than there are available immigrant visa numbers to hand out, then a wait list gets started. Uh, then a wait list gets started. And that wait list is what then is causing people to have to go through a two-step process. So let me know if you can hear me, because I got interrupted here. Let me know if you can hear me. So now, being the spouse of a permanent resident means that you have to first apply for the petition, wait for the priority date to become current, and then also no sound. All right, let me go. All right, so I have to just fix an issue here. All right, so I had a technical issue here. All right, so I had a technical issue here. So sorry. So I had an interruption there. We were going good, and then I had an interruption. So I was explaining about VAWA, being the spouse of a permanent resident applying for VAWA. It's now a two-step process because there's a wait list. So in order to get to the work permit, it's not that you can't apply for the work permit. In order to get to the work permit, you need to first submit your petition, and then you have to wait. So right now, you probably are going to have to wait anywhere from 6 months to a year for your priority date to become current. The wait list is only going to get longer, so you have to jump on it right away. Apply, and then when your priority date becomes current, that's when you're able to apply for everything else. You're able to apply for work permit, your green card at the same time. So it's not that you can't apply for the work permit when you're applying for VAWA. It's just that you have to wait, and you do have to submit your petition first. If you don't submit your petition, you're never going to get to the green card, to the work permit. Does an abused spouse, hi there, Alicia. So does an abused spouse need text messages between her and her husband to file for VAWA? She had deleted messages between them when she left, and nope, no, you don't need that. I would say here, the most important aspect of this application is going to be your declaration. And then if you have other evidence, great. If someone filed only a picture, no other evidence, filing a marriage base to USCIS makes they're taking so long, almost 2 years, no interview, only work permit. So pictures only can be a red flag. So you definitely want to give more. Can I apply for U visa with an expired passport? So usually with the U visa and the T, they will not approve it without getting your current and valid passport. So if you want to apply and then provide them the updated passport by the time they make the decision, then you should be fine there. But you want to make sure you provide them a valid and current passport. How long does it take to get green card after VAWA approved? So about a year, to a year to a year and a half. Do you need to do an interview if you file for the IW1? So I'm not sure the IW1 visa is. I don't know what that is. What about EB3? How is it done? So an employer definitely has to sponsor you and go through the labor certification process at the Department of Labor, and then file the petition for you. You have to make sure your priority date is current if you want to do adjustment of status or wait outside the country until it's time to process your visa to come here and become a green card holder. How long after marrying a U.S. citizen does it take to get work permit or green card? If you're on, I would say everything. So work permit 3 to 6 months. Everything should take under a year right now. What about NIW for a chemical engineer with MSc in engineering management? That it depends. So you have a good start because there's a master's in engineering management. So you have a good start there. You'll meet the first criteria. And then what are your goals? That's what you have to focus on. What are your goals? What's your experience to show that you can meet those goals to benefit the United States? Good day. How long is it taking now to process? Also, I answered that. All right. Let me see. I'm going to see if I can get to a few more. Do you get interviewed for AOS through the T? So you may. It just depends on if they have additional questions. If they don't, they could waive that too. What is waiting time for adjustment of status for asylum? So I would say a year and a half to 2 years for the adjustment of status if you're doing it after you've applied for asylum. Filing for adult son, how long is the process? 5 to 7 years. Can I apply? My oldest daughter lives in Mexico, has a dual citizenship and in med school. Can she come and study? So if she has dual citizenship here in the US, she can definitely come to the US to study. I mean, she has rights to be here in the US as a US citizen. How long do you wait for a green card after you receive your traveling parole? So it's not really counted from the time you get your travel document. Filing for my mom and adjusting our status, how long is the process? So it should take about a year, so even a little under a year. If someone is married to a green card holder, can that person get a work permit? So no. I mean, if you're applying for VAWA, then you can apply for the VAWA petition and then apply for work permit after. But if you're doing adjustment of status and you're out of status, definitely will not get the work permit. If you are here on current visa, priority date is current, applied for adjustment of status, then yes, you would get the work permit. So as you can see, it depends on your facts here. Just have my prima facie determination letter. What's next? I'm not applying for a green card. How for I-360 to be, how long? So I'd say 2.5 to 3 years to get that approval. Is there premium processing for the T visa? No, there's no such thing. How long after? So I answered that. And how long it normally takes to change from J1 to green card? Now, one thing you need to be very aware of is there's no process that takes you straight from J1 to green card. As a matter of fact, you may be restricted from applying for the green card for a few years. So you get legal advice about whether that's even an option for you. If you married a US citizen, he has 2 previous marriage but have only one of the certificates, can you file with only one certificate? So you do have to show that those 2 previous marriages were terminated. So you have to be careful about that. They want to see the termination. So you have to get the divorce decree for at least the divorce decree for all the previous marriages. Do I have to do an interview for the T visa? There is no interview. So that's why it's very important for us to put a good case together so the officer can read the evidence and then make a decision. Good afternoon. I was in the US. I went to see a lawyer about our F3 category. Our priority date is October 2010. Now I'm QA. I think, does that mean documentarily qualified? So I don't know, I don't know. It seems like this is a comment more than a question. Good day. I didn't hear the response to the question because of the connection. Good day. how long is that 212 taking? So you could be looking at a year and a half. That's so that is permission to reapply for reentry. Some people refer to it as a waiver. So about a year and a half. Oh, was told they bounced back to 2009. So yes, unfortunately, the wait times have gotten longer in some cases. If you get released from immigration in the U.S. with an A number and had just been here without a court date, always check in the A number, and they say it is not in the system. What would be other options? So that alone doesn't give you options, but now is the time, especially if they hadn't scheduled you for a court date, that you can look at some options before they schedule a court date for you. Good day. I'm in the USA and H-2B visa. Can I get my spouse here on an H-4 visa? So I don't usually do the H-4, so any kind of visas regarding the derivatives of the H-2B. But I believe there is some visa category for spouses and children, but I would not be the person to ask about that. Good day. I would like to expand my business to the US, leading to applying for residency. Is that possible? It's possible. It's possible. But this is where you need legal advice. I was seeking advice if I could stay um, and apply for a waiver to do the paper here. So I wouldn't. This is where you should get legal advice, because you would really have to figure out timing here to make sure that's advisable. I would say that if you do have the choice and there's no option to stay here and adjust status, then don't overstay because it causes a world of pain. But it depends on your facts here. It doesn't sound like your priority date is current. If your priority date isn't current, then you overstay, you're going to be stuck here. And you'll need to show that you have a spouse or a parent who can then who will experience extreme hardship if you don't get the green card, to get forgiveness. And that application is not, they are not required to approve it. They can deny it as well. So you'll put yourself in a lot more of a precarious situation. How long should it take before you get a response after send your I-130? So, it usually takes about I would say 2 to 4 weeks, just depending on how busy they are. So can the person married while waiting on his or her court date from immigration? If that is the case, you can end up having to prove a higher standard, which is your marriage is bona fide by clear and convincing evidence. That can be difficult to show, so you'd have some work to do. All right, so that's gonna be it for me today. Thanks everyone. Boy, the time just flies by. So thanks so much. I know I didn't get to all the questions, and I could easily spend all day on here answering questions. I do try to get on here every day, of course, with how busy things are. It's not a possibility, but I am working, me and my team are working to perfect this art where I can still balance the lives and balance everything else going on. So stay tuned, follow me, subscribe. Whenever you get notification I'm live, hop on with me and then we can talk, and save your questions for next time. Last question here: do you do consultations? Absolutely. Go to the link in the profile, call the office. That's how you're going to get on my schedule. With everything going on here, laws are being passed. That's the latest trend. States are taking it into their own hands to enforce immigration laws here. So this is where it's so important now to check what your qualifications are here, because things are getting serious. It's Florida, then Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, Iowa, and I'm pretty sure more states are coming with these types of anti-immigrant laws. So see what your options are here. All right. Have a good day. Remember, follow me, and as soon as you see me go live, join with me. I aim to come here around lunchtime to answer questions and tell you what's going on. But if I can join any other time of the day, I might. So please follow me and subscribe so that you can see when I'm on and, join in the conversation. Have a good one. Bye bye.